Hi there! Welcome! I'm John Merriman, and this is your Tuesday morning guitar song. Back in the mid-1960s, we actually didn't grow enough cute boys in this country to fill the demand, and we had to rely on importing them from Great Britain. Welcome to the British invasion. It was kicked off by the Beatles in 1964 and went on relentlessly until about 1967, when American bands and artists finally regained a little market share. The time was ripe for change back in the early 60s, and that change became a quantum leap for culture and for music. What was going on back then was that our pop music had become so overly formulaic and sanitized with teen idols like Fabian. Our rock and roll music was dispirited and lacked creativity ever since the plane wreck that killed Buddy Holly. And Elvis Presley? Well, he wasn't a young kid anymore. What brought this invasion on were the young, guitar-centered bands from England. They had taken American rock and roll and rhythm and blues, and they rethought it, they reworked it, they stamped their British sensibilities on it, they put an accent on it, and they sent it back here, and the American kids just went crazy for it. The British invasion really happened in two waves. The first wave came from northern England, and it was composed of the bands that were shaggy-haired moppets that brought the fun and joy back into singing and life. The second wave came from southern England, from London, and it was a little edgier, not quite as parent-friendly, more blues-based. It was like the Rolling Stones, or the Yardbirds, or the Who. My personal favorites were the first wave bands from northern England. And who started it all off? Well, of course, the Beatles. And where were they from? Liverpool. Let's take a look over here. Here's a big map of the island of Great Britain. Liverpool sits kind of right in the center here on the western side. That is considered northern England because up here you have Scotland, and the border of England, sits in the middle somewhere. So that's northern England. So there was another northern English town that never got the credit I feel that they deserved. They produced so many, more than their share, of great early bands of the British invasion. And that town was Manchester. Manchester sits about 30 or 40 miles to the east of Liverpool, and they produced such great bands as the Hollies, Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders, Freddie and the Dreamers. The Bee Gees were actually born and raised in Manchester and lived there until Barry Gibb was 12 years old and the family moved to Australia. But one of my favorite bands to come out of Manchester was Herman's Hermits. Of course, Herman was like a poster child of the British invasion. He was the archetype of the young, happy-go-lucky, singing British kid who was nothing but fun and excitement. He endeared the American audience to him and his band with his squeaky accent and his beaming smile. And we forget how incredibly popular Herman's Hermits were during the British invasion. There were times in the British invasion where Herman's Hermits were actually outselling the Beatles. During 1964 to 1968, they had 14 top 20 hits, and they acted in 3 MGM teen movies. Before Herman's Hermits, Peter Noone was well known to British audiences. He was a child actor, and he acted in a popular British soap opera. Now, here's something interesting. Who also acted in that same soap opera was, as a child actor, Davy Jones, who went on to front the Monkees here in the United States. The Hermits stayed on the charts until about 1968 here in America, and they stayed on the charts until about 1970 in Great Britain. In 1971, Peter Noone left the band. They replaced him and they kept going as the Hermits, and they had a few, charts, few hits in England, but not too many, and they are still performing today with Barry Whitwam as the only original member on drums. Peter Noone left the band and he pursued a solo career. He had a few hits as a soloist. And then in the 1980s, he tried to reinvent himself with a new wave band in Britain called the Tremblers. Now, I really liked the Tremblers, and I was sorry that they didn't do better. They only produced one album. Peter Noone also went back to his love of acting, and he acted on Broadway, he acted in the West End in London, and he acted in touring companies around the United States. And today, Peter Noone lives in Santa Barbara, California. He is a disc jockey, and he has a great show on Sirius XM radio on Saturday afternoon. I try to catch it any time I can. It's full of trivia, and I just love it. And Peter also goes out and performs as Herman, and he sings those great Herman's Hermits songs whenever he can. Well, Peter Noone is a great, fun-loving guy, so I think we should do something fun for him. How about a Tuesday morning fun fact? Here's your Tuesday morning fun fact. Peter Noone has pulled off something in his life that I have very rarely, or if ever, have seen in a young pop star who becomes very rich, very famous at a very early age. In 1968, Peter Noone married his first wife, Muriel Strasser. Now, he was still very famous, producing hits in Britain and on the road. That's a tough combination for any relationship, and few survive. But his first wife has now become his first and only wife. Peter and Muriel have been married for 49 years, and according to Peter in an interview I just heard, 49 very happy years. And I thought that would make a fantastic Tuesday morning fun fact. So Peter, way to go, dude. Congratulations. My best wishes on your 50th wedding anniversary next year. And I would like to dedicate the guitar song today to you and Muriel. It was your last top 20 hit here in the United States. It went to number 4. So please stay with me. I'll be right back. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I had such a great time together. Thanks for sharing the show on your social media. We are a word-of-mouth operation. Thanks for liking the show. Appreciate everybody in your life this week. Come back and see me next week. And remember, you're never ready for your day without a song in your heart. Bye now.